Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you guys do for the channel is amazing. You really help us keep this thing going and moving forward. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code SINISTER and get 10% off all of your purchases. They have a lot of great stuff, and you can keep using that code so you never have to pay full price. With all that out of the way, it's time to talk about the Hunter Ranger. The Hunter Ranger comes to us from the Player's Handbook, and it was one of the two that was releases, and this was the more popular of the choices. Again, the Beastmaster was harder to understand. I think that was the big issue with it. A lot of people felt it was severely underpowered, but if you really actually used it, it really wasn't so terrible. It was a lot higher up than some people might think, especially at certain levels. But not getting into a long discussion about the Beastmaster, which we will at some point, the Hunter is a very powerful subclass, but it's a very unique from a design point, because almost all of the abilities you get from the Hunter are passive, where you need certain scenarios to kind of cause them to happen or be able to use the most out of these abilities. You don't control those scenarios. You have to meet those scenarios, and then the passive is available, which is very, very different. A lot of the times when you pick subclasses, you get special activated abilities or reactionary things or things that you can kind of have a control over. The Hunter Ranger just kind of has these abilities just constantly on and going. So what makes this feel unique and different is the fact that all of your customizable skills and things is all going to come from your spell choices, because it gives you this opportunity to not worry about combat, because the Hunter Ranger has everything it needs. You can grab a couple of spells to just pepper them in so that way you have them and they work out really well, and it's kind of the way it makes a lot of sense personally. But you don't have to worry about, what am I going to do in combat? You can set up yourself to focus on your spell choice and your spell selection and your understanding of specific ranger spells, because rangers have specialized spells that only they get. And understanding those really helps to kind of make your ranger significantly better, because it gives you this kind of like a video game feel where you have special skills that, as opposed to just having spell slots. But that's something that's going to take time for you to kind of read through your spells and understand. But giving you that focus that makes your spells really important. And that's, no other subclass does that, because everything else is based around just a multitude of other things you're trying to do. Gloomstalker, you're constantly trying to stay in the dark and outrange people, or just fight in dark vision, or just blow out candles, because even if you're up close, they can't see you if you're in the dark. The Swarm Keeper is about using your swarm, pushing them forward, and using spells and things like that, manipulating the battlefield to kind of push and pull enemies, knock them prone, knock them off things, dissipate later on at higher levels, use the swarm as a mage hand. Like, everything else has these other abilities that kind of work like that. The Hunter Ranger does not. The Hunter Ranger is like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. He just shows up and just slashes until everything's dead. That's kind of what you get from the Hunter Ranger, and it gives you this kind of forced interest in your spell slots and your spells, because now they have more value, because you don't have anything else to do in combat outside of attack. At 3rd level, you gain access to Hunter's Prey. You gain one of the following features of your choice: Colossus Slayer. Your tenacity can wear down the most potent foes. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, the creature takes an extra 1d8 damage if it's below its hit point maximum. You can deal this damage only once per turn. Giant Killer. When a large or larger creature within 5 feet of you hits or misses you with an attack, you can use a reaction to attack that creature immediately after its attack, provided you can see the creature. Horde Breaker. Once on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack, you can make another attack with the same weapon against a different creature that is within 5 feet of the original target and within range of your weapon. Now, Horde Breaker is something that you really gotta understand works not only in melee, it works in range. So you will be able to make additional attacks as you go forward. Now, it is not a bonus attack, this action. It is just an additional attack. So say you attack twice, now you attack 3 times if there's another creature within 5 feet of the original target, which is unique. Not a lot of abilities give you that without taking some sort of other bonus action or reaction away or something like that. It's very rare that a melee combatant gets a skill that can attack 2 people that are close together. I think there's only a handful in the game. But the ranger can use this and can use this in a multitude of ways. Obviously, one of the easiest ways to take advantage of this is with a ranged attack, especially early on in a fight, or if you get advantage, if you're sneaking up on people and they don't know you're going to, or you're in the area, you can pop off a couple of shots before anybody does anything. This is very effective against creatures that are very low in hit points, that are just a bunch of them that are lined up together. Keep in mind, this can coincide with some ranger abilities, because some ranger spells are you cast it as a bonus action and it affects your actual attack. Keep that in mind. It does stack, so it will cause additional effects going forward. That is something that works best, again, with your better knowledge of your ranger spells. Giant Killer is great. A lot of the times you will be fighting larger creatures. They come up pretty regularly in game. Purple Worms is a great example of this. And if you're up close to it and it's hitting you, a lot of the times your reaction isn't going to be used for opportunity strikes. There are very few spells that you have or abilities you have give you a lot of different reactions. This gives you an opportunity to get that extra additional attack going forward, which can be great. It can up your actions per turn, which in turn can do additional damage, which might even down a few foes. Again, if it hits or it misses you. So you can just be lucky to miss the attack, know you're not going anywhere, and slam one extra attack into them. Sometimes chipping away at the enemy at every opportunity you get is very, very useful. It helps to wear them down, and it might even force a retreat. Because if an enemy is smart enough, and they get hit, and their hit points are real low, they'll take that opportunity. They can't get opportunity attacked from you. So they might just be better off just running away, or at least trying to, which now can change the turn of combat and how everything goes from here on out. So when you get the opportunity, if this is what you select, knock it out the park. Use it as often as you can. You get 1 reaction per turn, and I can't tell you how often you'll go round after round after turn after turn after turn without ever using a reaction. Colossus Slayer, this is the more popular choice. Especially, this gets better when you get extra attack. Because even if you hit with the first attack, the second attack can have Colossus Slayer on it. You just have to diminish 1 hit point from the main to be able to take this. This obviously was a greater choice. If you crit, this is the one you want to add on because it's additional damage. It's tied in with your weapon attack, so it does get multiplied when you do get a critical. So you do get to re-roll that dice. Defense Tactics. At 7th level, you gain one of the following features of your choice. Escape the Horde. Opportunity attacks against you are made with disadvantage. Multi-attack defense. When a creature hits you with an attack, you gain a +4 bonus to your AC against all subsequent attacks made by that creature until the rest of the turn. Steel Will. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Now, Steel Will obviously is very situational. If you're not fighting a lot of things that will cause fear, you're not fighting dragons, you're not fighting undead, you're not fighting just a plethora of enchantment-based characters, you probably will not be choosing Steel Will because it's very, very singular in its purpose. That being said, Escape the Horde and Multi-Attack Defense both have a platitude of great uses. Opportunity attacks made with disadvantage. You have medium armor. You can wield a shield. There's a bunch of ways to up your AC to a substantial amount just from there. Being able to be fluid in combat can open up a lot of doors. Sometimes you'll be confident enough that your AC will carry you, so you can do that. Because if the enemy wastes an opportunity attack against you and misses, your party member that might be right next to them might need that action to just dash away and get safe. It's a tactic that you kind of get used to once you've seen it once or twice, and it becomes very, very valuable. Plus, it stacks with giant killer. If you're fighting a large creature and you have escaped the horde and you back up, you can use that, pop out that extra attack, go back in and do your rest of attacks, and you still A, took the reaction away from the enemy, B, survived that because they had disadvantage on the attack, and you additionally got a way to add in your extra attack as a reaction. So you can very easily knock out 3 attacks this turn. With Hunter's Mark being on, that's an additional amount of damage you can add in pretty quickly. Again, working with these things, it really coincides with the kind of character you're building and the kind of mentality you want to have for in combat. This is a very tactical character, so, and considering these things are passively on, you can see kind of where to best position yourself. Multi-attack defense, great. When you get hit, bang, once I got hit, this thing attacks 2 or 3 times, it will not hit me again. +4 bonus to AC is substantial. That is a huge amount. It's like carrying 2 additional shields. It's like wearing armor, having a shield, and then having a ring of protection and a cloak of protection. Like, it's a lot. It's really, really effective. It gives you a lot of longevity. It makes you significantly tankier. This is one of the few abilities that actually does this in game, and it's impressive. Again, who you want your character to be. Do you want to be ranged? Then maybe Escape the Horde is better for you, because you can back up and then you can take advantage of Horde Breaker or Colossus Slayer. If you want to be up front, then maybe multi-attack defense is best for you. You can hold the line, and then people have a strong difficulty attacking you. You add on that you just stood and blocked the passageway and took dodge. If you did get hit, you then had +4 AC, and then everything else still on top of that has disadvantage to try and hit you. You could use these things in creative, tactical ways. The only issue is none of these are activated. You can't just activate it. You just have it on, and you have to be very mindful of your position in combat to get the most use out of this. At 11th level, you gain multi-attack as a different feature. This is not extra attack, and often they get confused, but it is called multi-attack, and there's a good reason for it. Your first option is volley. You can use your action to make a ranged attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet of a point you can see within your weapon's range. You must have ammunition for each target as normal, and you make a separate attack roll for each target. Whirlwind attack. You can use your action to make melee attacks against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you, with a separate attack roll for each target. Now, here's the thing. I know it's easy at first thought to go, you can use your action to make melee attacks against any number of creatures, but you get extra attack. Does that mean whirlwind attack? You can attack everything around you twice? And the most logical answer for me is no. That means you can make 2 attacks, and one of those attacks is going to hit everything. You're going to roll to hit everything around you, but the other attack is going to be singularly focused. Volley, I think, works in the same fashion. You might be able to negotiate either of these things with your DM, but I'm pretty sure they're going to stay as they're stated. With volley, it's a 10-foot area. It's not small, you know what I mean? Like, it's enough that you can get a good amount of characters or enemies in that area and just rip them and just throw a whole bunch of damage to it. Your party member gets swarmed, you don't have to attack everything in that area. It's any number of creatures within 10 feet of a point you can see. So you can decide just not to do it. If your friend is surrounded completely, you can hit every single one of them and save your friend from taking damage. Now again, with these abilities, they are passive. They are always on. This is not an X amount of times per day. This is not a proficiency bonus per day. This is just on at all times. There are certain ranger spells that give you certain abilities, like Zephyr Strike, where it gives you bonus damage and it makes you go be able to not be opportunity strike by whoever you get hit. Hail of Thorns, I think, works on a ranged attack and still drops an AoE. but it's a bonus action that affects your attack. Those all stack with these abilities, so keep those in mind when you're picking your targets with what you're going to do. When you start to see how they coalesce and how they work together and amalgamate into a unique situation, it's almost like creating your own dual tech. We're using your own spell slot, technique, skill, ability, however you want to change it. In the ranger's case, I kind of consider them abilities or techniques. It helps us separate what they do and better categorize them in my mind. Don't have to do it, but take those techniques and you add them with some of these passive effects that are on, and now you have a different arching ability. It's almost like adding a glyph or an item or a skill or something that augments it or an additional spell. It's almost like a meta magic to attack. It's very unique, and when you start looking at the spells in conjunction with this, that's when you really start to see the creativity and the multitude of madness you can come by creating and min-maxing and mixing and changing around and augmenting these abilities. And sometimes some of the less popular choices on paper work really well with some spells that might enhance that kind of a circumstance. Superior Hunter's Defense. At 15th level, you gain one of the following features of your choice. Evasion. When you are subject to an effect such as the Red Dragon's Fiery Breath or Lightning Bolt spell that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only half damage if you fail. Stand Against the Tide. When a hostile creature misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to force that creature to repeat the same attack against another creature other than itself of your choice. Uncanny Dodge. When an attacker that you can see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to have the attack's damage against you. Now, these are very, very interesting choices. Now, evasion is great. At worst, when you fail a dexterity saving throw that might result in damage, you take half damage. If you have a resistance, that's even better. That is the only one that doesn't use your reaction. Stand Against the Tide is great. Say you're fighting like some sort of giant or something that you know is going to hit hard, and you end up getting that attack missed, and it has another enemy right next to it. Force that enemy get hit. If that crits, if that just does damage, some of those hits are monstrous. That will do a huge chunk of damage to their own party, your enemy combatants. And again, this isn't X amount of times per day. This is constant. This is always on. In conjunction, if you took Giant Killer, you can use this only when it misses. So that still means when you get hit, you can still use your reaction that turn to do an attack. Again, it's something you're going to have to weigh the weight of where you are, because now you have options. So maybe it has multi-attack, and maybe you know you got hit on the first turn, but that +4 bonus to AC because you took multi-attack defense, it isn't going to happen, but you want to use that against someone else. That might be a choice you might have to make. Again, you're jumping around with what you're using. Uncanny Dodge is pretty amazing. Ask any rogue, it is fantastic. You just take half damage, but you can only use it for one attack, one spell, one whatever it is, once per turn. You can only use Uncanny Dodge once. So be aware of that. Say you took Colossus Slayer, multi-attack defense, and Uncanny Dodge. You got hit with that first attack. Shrink that down to half damage. You have +4 bonus AC for the rest of that turn. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do when you start getting to that level, because you kind of have to build in sequence from Jump Street. You got to know what you're going to take at 7. You got to know what you're going to take at 11. You got to know what you're going to take at 15. Because if you're taking Giant Killer, Volley, and Steel Willed, you're kind of all over the place. You got to kind of focus as a long game kind of a plan. You got to think about moves in the future. But if you do, you gain the benefits of being able to do a lot in a very passive kind of a way. Like, you're built for this. You focus on other things. This is what you're going to do. You are set. You are ready to go. You are open. You are plug and play. You're just good to go. With all that being said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you made it this far into the video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You really do a great thing to keep us motivated and keep us working and keep us pushing out new content. Thank you so much. We really appreciate what you do. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Again, use that promo code Sinister and get 10% off all your purchases. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.